Breaking developments today out of Alberta, and trust me when I say this, what you're about to hear could fundamentally change the future of Canada. Alberta has just struck a bold, unprecedented deal with the United States, and the fallout is shaking Ottawa to its core. Prime Minister Mark Carney is scrambling, President Donald Trump is celebrating, and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has just made her most daring move yet. The question on everyone's mind, has Ottawa lost control of the West? Let's start with what we know. Alberta, Canada's oil-rich province, has always carried weight in the national economy. Its energy resources are the backbone of Canadian prosperity. But after years of tension with Ottawa, growing frustration over federal policies, and repeated fights over pipelines, Danielle Smith has quietly taken negotiations across the border. And now, those secret talks are no longer secret. The deal is simple on paper, but explosive in reality. Alberta has agreed to supply massive amounts of energy directly to American companies, bypassing Ottawa's authority. No federal middleman, no Canadian oversight, just Alberta and Washington face-to-face, signing contracts that Ottawa never approved. And here's the kicker. Trump himself has reportedly endorsed this agreement. According to insiders, he sees Alberta as America's energy lifeline in a time of global instability. That endorsement gives Smith not just economic leverage, but political legitimacy. Suddenly, Alberta is no longer just a province playing within Canada's rules. It's acting like an independent energy power. Now pause and think about what that means. For decades, Canadian unity has rested on a fragile balance. The West supplies resources and Ottawa ensures national control. But tonight, that balance has cracked. Mark Carney is said to be furious. Cabinet members are warning this deal undermines the very foundation of Confederation. One even called it the first step toward Alberta's exit from Canada. So how did we get here? This didn't happen overnight. Alberta has been drifting from Ottawa for years. First came the frustration with carbon taxes, then the fight over pipelines, then the endless debates about equalization payments, billions flowing east while Alberta felt shortchanged. Danielle Smith has positioned herself as the voice of Western independence, promising Albertans she'd stop letting Ottawa call the shots, and now she's delivered. But Ottawa's problem is bigger than Alberta alone. Saskatchewan is watching closely. British Columbia is listening. Manitoba's farmers, too, are whispering about what autonomy could mean for them. If Alberta proves it can cut a deal with Washington without Ottawa's blessing, what's stopping other provinces from following suit? That's the nightmare scenario for Carney, a domino effect that tears Canada apart, one province at a time. Meanwhile, Trump couldn't be happier. His White House is framing this as a historic energy partnership between Alberta and the U.S. He gets cheaper oil, direct supply lines, and a chance to poke Carney right in the eye. For Trump, this is more than economics. It's politics. He gets to show American voters he's securing energy at a time when global markets are shaky. And let's not forget, Trump thrives on disruption. Danielle Smith, on the other hand, is presenting herself as the protector of Albertans. In a fiery speech, she declared, "We are no longer waiting for Ottawa's permission to succeed. Alberta will chart its own course." To many Albertans, those words sound like freedom. To Carney's government, they sound like a declaration of defiance. And here's where the suspense deepens. Ottawa does have tools to fight back. Federal law says provinces can't make international deals on their own. But does Carney dare move against Alberta right now? Sending in federal lawyers, or worse, federal enforcement, would risk sparking an all-out political war. Already, thousands of Albertans are rallying in support of Smith's bold move. The Premier is riding a wave of popular energy, and every day Carney hesitates, that wave grows stronger. Behind closed doors, sources say the Prime Minister's office is split. Some advisors want Carney to clamp down hard to show that Ottawa is still in charge. Others fear that too much force will only fuel Western separatist sentiment. The phrase being whispered in political circles is chilling, another Quebec moment. But this time, it's not French Canada threatening to leave. It's the West, and the stakes are even higher. Because unlike Quebec, Alberta controls energy, the resource that powers the entire country. Imagine the consequences if Alberta decided to cut off supply not just to Ottawa, but to the rest of Canada. Already, markets are reacting. Oil prices are swinging wildly. Investors are nervous, and whispers in Washington suggest Trump might be ready to sweeten the deal even further, offering Alberta access to U.S. infrastructure and even security guarantees to protect pipelines. That's not just trade, that's sovereignty. Which leads us to the big looming question. Is this still about energy, or is it about independence? Danielle Smith insists Alberta isn't leaving Canada yet, but every move she makes edges closer to that line. And with Trump cheering her on, the pressure on Carney mounts by the hour. Picture this: Ottawa tries to block the deal. Alberta doubles down. The U.S. retaliates. Suddenly, what started as an energy agreement turns into a constitutional crisis, with the world watching as Canada's unity fractures on live television. Sound extreme? Perhaps. But history shows us that once provinces taste real independence, it's almost impossible to put that genie back in the bottle. Today, Canadians are asking, has the country already passed the point of no return? Mark Carney insists he will defend the Federation. Danielle Smith insists she will defend Alberta. Donald Trump insists he will defend America's interests. And stuck in the middle are millions of Canadians wondering whether their nation is slipping away before their eyes. But let's widen the lens here, because this story isn't just about politics, it's about economics, and the ripple effects could be staggering. Think about Canada's pension funds, its federal revenues, its credit rating. All of them are tied directly or indirectly to Alberta's oil wealth. If billions of dollars start flowing south of the border instead of into federal coffers, Ottawa faces a fiscal nightmare. Carney's big promises, funding green energy, expanding pensions, stabilizing healthcare, suddenly look fragile. Every dollar Alberta bypasses is a dollar Ottawa doesn't control. And here's where it gets even more explosive. American companies are already circling like hawks. They see Alberta as a chance to lock in long-term contracts at discounted rates, cutting out the Canadian government entirely. For Wall Street and Texas oil giants, this is a dream come true: energy security, lower costs, and a friendly premier who wants less regulation. What happens if Alberta becomes economically dependent on the U.S.? Some analysts warn it could become a petrostate within a state, aligned more with Washington than Ottawa. Imagine a province where the laws are Canadian, but the money, the contracts, and the loyalties are all American. That's not just unusual, that's unprecedented in Canadian history, and Trump knows it. His strategy isn't just about cheaper oil, it's about leverage. By bringing Alberta closer to Washington, he gains influence over Canada itself. Every time Carney tries to push back, Trump can remind him that America now has Alberta on speed dial. It's a geopolitical chess move, and so far, Trump is 2 steps ahead. Danielle Smith, for her part, insists this is about fairness. She argues Albertans are tired of being treated as Ottawa's piggy bank, tired of sending billions east while their own communities struggle. But critics warn she's playing with fire. Once you tie your economy to a foreign capital, can you ever untangle it again? And here's a scenario few people are daring to say out loud. What if Alberta eventually holds a referendum, not just on separation, but on alignment with the United States? The legal road is murky, the politics messy, but the sentiment is real. Polls already show growing frustration with Ottawa. If Trump offers Alberta direct access to U.S. markets, U.S. infrastructure, even U.S. protection, how many Albertans would start to think the unthinkable? So where does this all end? Some say Carney will negotiate, that he'll offer Alberta more autonomy to keep them inside Canada. Others predict a court battle that drags on for years. But the truth is, neither side seems willing to blink. Danielle Smith thrives on defiance. Donald Trump thrives on disruption. And Mark Carney, a man who built his career on stability, suddenly finds himself at the center of chaos. Because once a province strikes its own deal with Washington, it's not just politics anymore, it's power. And power, once claimed, is almost never given back. Stay with me, because the days ahead could decide not just Alberta's future, but the future of Canada itself. Breaking developments today out of Alberta, and trust me when I say this, what you're about to hear could fundamentally change the future of